everybody, this is Ethan with WiseCrack Studios, and today I wanted to go over a little trick that is super helpful if you've got an instrument or two that's just a little bit too far back in the mix. Like you just want to pull it forward a little bit without just changing the volume louder. Now typically, the right way to fix this is with a compressor. You just put it at the front of everything, and then all of a sudden, it just starts to sound a little bit clearer, it's more up front, and kind of works out. The one problem being if you already put a compressor on it and it's still not far enough forward. And then if you put another compressor on it, sometimes it can have the problem where suddenly it just doesn't feel like it fits the song right anymore. It feels like it's something on top of the song, but not a part of the song. So I just wanted to go over this little idea of the parallel mix trick. It's useful on a whole bunch of different instruments, but it's especially useful for lead vocals and drums. I've got it on here right now with guitars as well, and I'm going to go through how to use these in different ways. So first, let's go ahead and look at drums real quick. Now right now, I've got three things going on here. I've got the parallel kick and snare, the actual drum bus that everything's going to, and I've got a parallel drum mix that is going in tandem with everything else. So I'm going to turn these off real quick and just have you listen to the drums. Which is a pretty good drum part by itself. It's pretty well done already. It's an Easy Drummer mix of loops from that, and it's a kit set up through Easy Drummer. And while it's mixed well by itself, when you put it in the context of the full mix, suddenly you start missing parts of it. I'm just gonna go ahead and unsolo that, and I'm going to turn off the various parallels right here. And I just want for you to listen to how it is as is.
Well, you told me that I was your only hope, but it seems you could have done this all along. Glad to help and I can't wait to see you all again one day. But for now.
Now, as you can see, you sort of lose the drums just as you're going through that mix. So what I did originally was I made this parallel drum track, where I just brought down the volume, slowly brought it in until it was coming in, but I threw on this plugin right here. It's a very famous compressor. If you know it, you know it. But it's a emulation of that very famous compressor, but it's designed in a way where it's in a mode known as all on, where you hit every ratio button at the same time, and they're all on at the same time. And this compressor, if I'm remembering right, doesn't have a attack or release knob to work with to change those. It's just automatically set. So it's actually really, really good for drums for doing a parallel, specifically the way that I wanted it, where I wanted for the cymbals in particular to stick out. So basically, by setting a really, really, really fast attack and a really, really fast release, it makes it to where the kick and the snare are a little bit quieter in this, but it brings up the volume of the actual cymbals, toms, everything that reverberates a little bit more. So let's go ahead and listen to that now.
Well, you told me that I was your only hope, but it seems you could have done this all along. Glad to help and I can't wait to see you all again one day. But for now.
Alright, so as you can hear, the cymbals are definitely a lot more clear, and especially on the big, sweeping hit parts, wherever, it hits and just sort of washes over everything. On those, it's a lot more clear and in your face whenever those happen, but I started to lose the kick and the snare in all of that, so I went ahead and I made a parallel track using a different compressor, where I could control the attack and release time a little bit better, so that's a little bit slower on the attack, but then especially whenever you have those big drum hits, it squashes that sound so that you only really get the transient. That's sort of the trick to rock drums, of that it's heavily compressed, but it's heavily compressed so that you just get that hit. And so now with this, it should sound a little something like this.
Well, you told me that I was your only hope, but it seems you could
as you can see, immediately you're hearing a lot more kick and snare than you were originally. Like, let's go through and I'm going to slowly bring them in.
Well, you told me that I was your only hope, but it seems you could have done this all along. Glad to help and I can't wait to see you all again one day. But for now, 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 gotta be. Well, you told me that.
Going through that, whenever I was turning off the parallel full kit, I couldn't even hear the ride cymbal anymore. The ride cymbal is like a big part of this song for keeping the rhythm going, and it was just completely gone. So just adding in that extra track can help to pull forward some of the different parts that may otherwise just get lost. Now, typically, people doing a parallel track will use it either on drums or the lead vocal. So I want to go up here real quick and just take a look at sort of what I did. I played around with a couple of things. I tried using the same parallel compression style that I did before. It didn't quite work. It was a little too quick for the vocal to where it was just squashing it and not really doing much. And then I tried doing sort of like I did for the kick and snare. It didn't end up exactly how I wanted to, so I actually pulled on the Shep's Omni channel that I have here because I was able to add a whole bunch of saturation as well as then doing the same compression style that I was doing before. So without that, it was sounding a little bit like this.
Well, you told me that I was your only hope, but it seems you could have done.
And then with it, it's sounding a little bit more like this.
Well, you told me that I was your only hope, but it seems you could have done this all along. Glad to help and I can't wait to see you all again one day.
And just to do a quick comparison, I'll go ahead and go back and forth between the two real quick.
Well, you told me that I was your only hope, but it seems you could have done this all along. Glad to help and I can't wait to see you all again one day. But for now, 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 gotta be.
Now, personally, I think that it sounds a lot better with that parallel vocal, and I made sure to go through and sort of volume check these, make sure that I wasn't deciding that this one was better just because it was a lot louder. I like having that extra little bit of tube saturation and analog saturation because it adds little distortions that help to push it forward just a little bit more. But the last little thing that I have going is this parallel guitar track. Right now I've got the Smasher on it again. I didn't really need it so much to get individual hits so much as I needed it to get the full over-the-top guitar sound to just push it forward a little bit, just make it a little bit bigger, because as it was, especially in this big section, it wasn't really hitting as hard as I wanted it to. So I went ahead and did that. I bussed everything over to it just so that it would hit a little bit harder, and I think it shows. Like, let's go ahead and take a listen real quick.
Well, you told me that I was your only hope, but it seems you could have done this all along. Glad to help and I can't wait to see you all again one day. But for now, 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 gotta be. Well, you told me that.
It's a very subtle difference, but whenever you're listening to these bidextral parts right here, there we go, it becomes very clear when you listen to those specifically that they just push forward ever so slightly. And I wanted to sort of focus on that for a second, because it's very, very subtle. And And this is just a couple of different ways that you can use it. You can use it like on the bass guitar as an example. I might do that later, but overall, these are little tricks that I like to use just to sort of push individual things forward a little bit, especially for the purposes of this. If I threw it on and only turned it on right for the final chorus, it would be that last little explosive burst needed just to do that little bit extra. So hopefully I've given you a couple of ideas to play with at home. As always, this has been Ethan with WiseCrack Studios, and I hope that you have a lovely day.